Hello, my name is Sally Wood for Be Inspired, and today we are going to continue with our two-part videos, and we are going to be doing these sprung dining room. We completed these in these loose seat chairs in the previous video, and hopefully I can pass on more information to you. For these dining room chairs, which are the sprung ones, you're going to need a staple gun, and for this application I'm using 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch staples. I'm also using webbing, so I need a web stretcher. Sometimes the webbing that's underneath the springs needs to be reinforced. I'm not sure yet, I haven't had a look at the chairs. A pair of scissors, a tack remover, hammer, and a pair of pliers. Also a tape measure and a yardstick. And then you need some bottom cloth. You can use other kinds of cloth, it doesn't have to be black. I've used chintz and all sorts of other things over the time. Some back tacking. Now if you don't have back tacking, you can use cereal boxes. Just strip them into 1/2 inch strips and use twice the thickness, and that will do the job perfectly. I have the contrast fabric for the piping cord, and also the fabric for the chair tops. This chair is quite simple to remove the excess out because somebody's already pre-done it for me. All I'm going to do is continue on. They've left a number of staples in, so I'm going to work my way around pulling these out. Do not take your tools over the wood, because this can actually ruin the wood frame. So just pull it up and away. Down here there's a few staples still in, so just tap very gently and pull those out. If you do dent the wood, if it's pine, just get your iron or a steamer and just steam it, and it should bring the wood grain back out. Having taken all of the staples out, just run your finger gently across, and if you find any lumps or bumps that you can't pull out with the pliers, just gently hammer them in. I even took out the staples that were along here. Now this chair, when you're taking the tack, in this case tacks, but if it's staples, just make sure you're only going through the top fabrics. Sometimes you will discover that there are maybe 2 or 3 layers, so you just need to work it through the layers each. The reason being is if you dig too deep, you might take out tacks or staples that you don't want to. I've had to move this chair onto its front. As before, just tap gently, but do not scratch the wood. As I've worked on this frame and peeled back some of the wadding that I'm going to keep in place, I noticed that there's quite bad holes in here, and I'm going to stabilize as many as I can. Use some of this. This is wood filler. I usually use an old credit card or something, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread some of that into a few of the holes, and I'm going to see if I can build this corner up and actually back into a sharp corner. Chair that's looked after, it will last a good long time. Also along the bottom of the rail, this has got quite a few holes in as well, so literally all I'm going to do is just fill some of them in. You can get the same results by using a mixture of glue and fine sawdust, but if you can buy something that will do the job just as well, that's all I would do. And the nice thing is, you actually, if it's underneath fabric, you don't have to bother sanding it. As long as you, as I say, as long as it's as smooth as you can make it. I did show you before how to cut the fabric, which was to fold the fabric in half, because most chairs need 27 inches wide. And I put the salvages together, fold it out and flatten it, and then I actually cut down the folded side. Now, I showed you in the previous film. What I will show you again is how to make sure that you have the right pattern match. And I know that I want this flower and this leaf going this way. So this is more or less the center of my pattern match. I've laid the fabric out and I've matched the center of the seat pattern here. Them slightly smaller and to match each. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but the top fabric I'm putting on the bottom, and then the bottom fabric I'm going to put on the top. I'm going to match the other end of this pattern, which gives me a pair of matching tops for the next set of chairs that I'm going to cover. Now in this case I'm going to keep the extras, measure the center, front and back of the top fabric, and as before I am also going to just roll it about an inch across and take a little clip out. This gives me some idea where the front and back of these chairs are, and the same at the other side. I'm going to just measure across here, which is 18 inches, which means I need to mark not on the border, but where I'm going to be stapling the fabric. There's my halfway mark there. On this chair it's a little bit difficult to mark the back. The panel to go across just needs to be about 2 or 3 inches wider, and it doesn't really have to be a pattern match. Now if it was a pattern that really showed, then that would be a different thing altogether. So there's the fabric, there's our back tacking, and just make sure it goes all the way along the across the back there. Put a piece of Dacron in here. I'm going to kind of bring it up a little bit above my mark. I staple that in place as well. So all I'm going to do is cut down towards the bottom here and then across, just like that. And pull this down like that. Staple just across the bottom here. To repeat this on the back and the other side. Okay, the next layer is some more Dacron Wrap. I just need to make sure it comes to at least where the last of the staples go in, and I need to pull it round to make sure it fits down to the back. I'm going to run my fingers along the top of this wood here and cut to my fingertips all the way across, and the same, just make sure that both sides come down, because we'll be working this Dacron in inside here, straight down there to the seat, not any further, and straight down to there. The seat is here, so I'm going to cut about an inch above, straight down, midway across. This will come down here. I'm not going to staple it because when I pull it all down it's going to walk a little bit. It might come down a little bit further. What I will do is cut in there so that can come down. I'm going to cut a little bit off, cut towards the back. This is going to come down, so what I did was I cut a little way into that corner like that, and I'm going to cut that off as well. Let's see if I can push that down with my fingers into the chair, which it has. By cutting just inside to about maybe ½ an inch, I can cut, like I did before, a little bit of the back off and push that down into the back of the chair, which then helps this come forward. Lay this fabric across the top, and I'm going to make sure that the pattern matches. So I've got my pattern, my flower going up there, and my flower going up here. I have marked the center line here, because the center front of the chair, which is here, is not right on the end, I have to move the fabric down to match the pattern on the existing chairs that I did in the previous video. So lay this fabric out. I'm also going to make sure that the V at the back that I cut out is in the center of the back here. And I'm going to push that down slightly so that it holds in place. Just wriggle this part of the pattern down to the top of the bar. And when I do that, I also need to cut back a little bit of this here. It makes it a little bit awkward sometimes to feel where the top of this band is. Just gonna snip off in a straight line. Now I'm going to wriggle this line here into place. It's not exactly in place, that's not a problem. And I'm going to put a stabilizing staple there, just above here. I have been dozy enough in the past to make holes in here, which is a horrible thing to do. Having put my holding staple in here, which might need to be removed, I'm going to pull the fabric down, so across this way but down to that corner. And I need, in order to match the fabric with the other chair, for it to go in here. So I'm going to pull it slightly and I'm going to put another staple. Okay, so having done that, I'm going to pull this fabric this way and down, and I need, in order to match the original chairs, for the pattern to at least come to here. And it's just above the bar. So I'm going to put, I have no intention of moving that. The next part to get in is actually the back of the chair, so that I can pull the fabric towards the back. What I initially did was, with the little V at the back, I centered it here, and then I cut down about 3 inches. And then having done that, I cut like an upside down V here, and I finished about an inch, half an inch in from the bottom corner. All I'd done is pushed it down as far as I could and eased it in. I'm going to push the fabric back, pull the fabric back even further to really get into these corners. And when I've done that, I'm going to just nick another inverted V. So from my initial one here, I cut a little one here, and that should manage to get the fabric around this piece of wood here, and but only pull in one side at a time. You can even it up later, just in case you overcut on one side. Then you can slightly pull it out of sync towards the opposite side. Hopefully we've got this about right. I'm going to push this corner deep down and around this piece of wood. And when I push it down, I can feel my fingers. So I'm going to put my finger where I think I need to go, which is about half an inch further down. So I'm going to just nick that, and I already have the nick that I want to pull it around the corner piece of wood. So I'm going to force this V down behind the stuffing. On here I'm going to twist it into the corner and pull it really tight into place. When I do that, there's a pleat, and I don't want that pleat to be there. Even pulling it out, there's still going to be a little pleat. So to get rid of that, I'm going to pull my fabric back out, and I'm going to, in between these 2 nicks, just take a couple more stitches out like that. and then start again. As I pull it around the second time, I'm going to fold this also underneath so it is level with the chair back. I'm going to fold this fabric right underneath as well. Follow the warp or the weft thread, which is the straight up or straight across. In this case it goes straight up and down. Pull it in really tight from the front to the back, ease it in, and then staple it just above where the bar would be. Now I need to work on the other side exactly the same way. Now we've got the back nice and tight. Now I'm going to be working on the side panels. And what you need to remember is do not take the center of here, at the center of this white piece. It is actually down here. So you have to draw an imaginary line up, and that will be your center mark to cut to. I also fold the fabric in a band across so that it runs level with the inside panels here. I'm going to cut towards my imaginary line at a right angle, and I'm going to stop about an inch before I need to start tucking down. The same on the other side, and then I'm going to do the inverted V about a half an inch in from the outside of this arm piece on both sides. And again I'm going to push the fabric into the dip here, and I'm going to roll the fabric around the sides to see how well I'm doing. I'm going to have to cut a little bit more down on the front here. Different chairs have different angles, so just be aware of that. If I open it up, you can see I've got the main V and then two little ones. I'll roll all of that down and see where it comes to. And I'm going to have to just do a little bit more snipping and nipping to get right into that corner. Push the fabric right down into there, and as you did before, fold this fabric over, wrap this fabric around it and under. Should form quite a nice sharp shape. Now on this chair I'm going to have to add just a little bit more padding underneath, otherwise it's going to sink in too much. And when you do it, tuck it right underneath like that, so it's hard up against the wood. Wrap that all the way under again and pull it into place. There we go. And I'm going to push some of it back up. There. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the weft threads, or it might be the warp threads depending on how the fabric went, and I'm going to just, like I did on the back, and just staple it above the bar. I'm going to make sure that all of this is cut up and out of the way. That needs to be pushed in there. I've just cut that so it's above the chair rail. I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to bring it midway, and I'm going to staple that. I can feel the bar. Always check if you're not sure. So I'm going to put that there and staple it here. Okay, I'm going to pull it midway again here and staple just above the bar. And again here, I'm going to just pull it down and staple it in. This is just going to hold it for now. I might wriggle parts of it around. I might not need to. There. And it's going to go in quite smoothly. Pull it in. And again. And again. Doesn't look very smooth. So if you need to, just kind of wriggle stuff around fingers up there and pull it into place. And it should be around just above my little finger. And then infill. Just pulling down. And it'll take some of the pleating out. Back here I'm going to have to pull this one out and just pull it round slightly more, but I'll do that in a minute when I get round to putting the trim on. It's easier to do that. Now I'm going to repeat that process on this side. When you've pulled everything in, just trim it back. Don't trim it all the way back, but just to about 1/2 inch or 1 centimetre away, like that. Because that allows you to, if you need to pull anything or alter it, you've got something to hold on to. Now, this particular front is rounded, so we need to be able to pull that around the front. So we're going to just have to nip in a little bit more until we can pop everything down and pull it around. If we work from the back to the front, oops, let's get that down. Never cut too close to the top of the fabric, so always allow a little bit extra. And here I'm going to just nip in a little bit more there, and maybe there. I think that will go make a nice round. And you see I'm pulling it back under itself like that. Just ease, 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 ease all the way. Little nick here, a little nick there, until it all goes in. And there we go. It's in place. Right, I'm going to trim the wadding, Dacron, whatever you want to call it, back level with the chair rail. And then I'm going to repeat like I did before, just fold that in underneath. And don't be afraid to pull it down hard. Just pull that in really hard. This wrinkle, when we pull forward, will pull out like that. You see? So let me just wriggle that filler out here a little bit so it's nice and full. Make sure that the warp or weft threads are going the right way so they're all even. And I'm going to pop that there. I need to alter this slightly, so I'm going to undo these 3 here in a minute and re-roll it so it's nice and tight around the arm of the chair. Now I'm going to pull to this corner so I can see where I'm going and see how the corner comes in, and then I'm going to just smooth it down with my hand and work towards that corner. Just push it down and staple all the way, pulling, and so that crease will come out. We might need to rework it into here in a minute, but we're not going to worry about it. So there we go. Just, and as I say, just keep pulling it forward, pull it this way and down, just forward and down all the way along, nice and even. And then when we get to the corner, we've got a little bit of wriggling around to do. There we go. And pull it up, and I'm going to fold the lining across, and I'm going to stabilize it quite high actually. Actually I'm going to stabilize this on top as well, just so it doesn't keep wriggling on me. Continue pulling that down into just here, maybe one last time, like that. Now I'm going to pull this fabric across and this one down, and I need, say, those warp and weft threads are really important actually, because they're going to form the corner. And pull that round and just make sure that that looks quite neat and tight. With my thumb I've pulled this under, and I'm going to put 2 staples a little bit high. Actually, when you pull that down, if you put it too close to the edge, it might pucker. And then I'm going to just pull this one in and across, like that. To make sure that's nice and tight, and then I'm going to put one just above my thumbnail, and then as before I'm going to pull this centre piece in here, the midway point, down to here, and then fill in the centre of there. I'm going to cut some of this fabric out, which is a little bit awkward. My finger is about there, and that's where I'm going to finish cutting, and hopefully not the front. And then I'm also going to cut across here and hopefully meet the two. There we are, there's the two of them. So like that. Pull that out, take some of the bulk out of here. Then I'm going to just put a staple in here and either side to hold it. I'm going to work on the other side of this chair. This portiere has a few things wrong with it, and one of them is it's a little bit soft when I push down. I'm going to web underneath, and as you can see it is centre and either side, and that's usually how you do it. I'm going to put this web here on either side of the centre, overhang it by a good inch, 2 centimetres over the edge of the chair. I'm not going to put the staples in parallel. I'm going to twist it, popping them in at 45-degree angle. I'm going to put them 4 across, and then with my web stretcher rested on the edge of the chair, I'm going to put the teeth through, also with it at the centre, and I'm going to pull it round as tight as I can and flat. See, and it's going to start making funny noises. I'm going to just pop it in here again, 45-degree angle from the edge of the chair, to cut about an inch out. And the reason why you do that is you can fold it over and then you can re-secure it, and it should not come off at all. The next one I'm going to put at a slight angle. I'm going to put it as close to the corner as I can here, and hopefully when I pull this one in it's going to flatten this spring out. So let's do this again, 45-degree angle, and then pop this through the webs. Now you might not have a web stretcher with teeth in it, you might have one that has a hole and a peg. They all work equally well, so don't worry about that. I've used both in my business. And I'm going to overlap it just slightly on here. You see it's gone, hopefully you can see it's nice and flat on there. And I'm going to just pull it as tight as I can, fold it over, and again at the front. Repeat 2 more times on this side of the chair. Make sure that these centre ones go parallel, otherwise you'll twist the chair frame. I mean, if this isn't exact, don't worry too much. It's done what I wanted, which is to hold those springs in place. But even though that's what it's doing, I still want you to, if you're doing this, feed these up and down the way they should be done, although this one's being a little bit awkward. They're done like this so that if any one of them falls out, it only slips so far. So let's pop this here, and I'm going to put this as close to the chair leg as I can. Leave about an inch overhang, and as before I'm going to just tighten this up as much as I can. If you need to pull it so it goes in straight, you can do that too, that's fine. And I'm going to just pull it over and staple. Cut off a good inch, and this time I'm going to go under first and then over like that. I'm not sure if I'm going to get four widths in, so I'm going to put it up as close as I can to that and staple it back into place. Trim it back and repeat. As you can see, it's popped the top of the chair out slightly. This little edge here isn't particularly good anymore, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay 2 lengths of back tacking along there, and what this does, it firms up the bottom of the chair rail. Make sure that both are level with each other, because you want, that's where the strength is. So I'm going to just pop that there. Try not to let it twist. And there we go. Just infill slightly, because that also gives a little bit of strength. I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. Like that. When that's in place, all the wadding and padding that we use will just cover it up and just make it smoother. When you put the back tacking on, remember to do the corners as well, and in this case I just had to put a little bit of fixer in there too. Next you place over the Dacron, and you just got to make sure it comes down on all sides. So I'm going to pop that back a little bit, that's so it can go down behind there, and then trim that back. You don't have to trim it too tight, just so long as it covers everything we need covered. You fold this fabric at a 45-degree angle from the back corner, and then you cut into the edge of the chair frame, and then all that does is you can pull that down and fold it back like I showed you on the previous chair, and then I'll do the same on the other side. Put Dacron on a lot of things, it tends to bulk the fabric back out. As with the other fabrics, I have marked my front and back with a little V. Just need to make sure that the pattern is going the right way. I might need to add a little bit of fabric to this one, I'm not sure yet. There's my centre back. I'm going to add a little bit of fabric onto here to make sure that I've got enough to go around the side of the chair. This chair seems to be a little bit wider than I had previously thought. When I do side hems on chair seats, I don't usually have to do them, but sometimes you do. I'm going to start it about 2 inches in from the end. I'm going to slide it under the foot, and I'm going to run it along the side of the sewing foot at about 2.8, so they're quite tight stitches, and I'm going to just sew right to the end of that piece that I've got. I'm not going to stretch, I'm just going to let it feed through. Now I'm going to top stitch it. And the reason I'm going to top stitch it is because I need as much strength in that seam as possible. I'm going to fold the top of the fabric up, and the piece that I've just added I'm going to have underneath, flat underneath, and I'm going to sew that as close to the seam as I possibly can. So it's like maybe 1/8 of an inch in from the side. I can just see the fold going through the opening of the foot. This is so that when I pull on the fabric, it holds very firm. If it does show, the way the fabric is turned under, it should actually hide the seam. And there's going to be piping going along there, so the whole conglomeration of fabrics joining should actually hide all of this. And you don't preferably you should pattern match, but I don't have enough fabric to pattern match, so I'm going to do the best I can. And it's a bit of an all over fabric pattern, so I'm not going to worry. There we are, nice and tight with the 1/4 of an inch over there. It shouldn't pull apart at all. As with the previous chair, I'm going to fold along the centre of the chair mark, and I'm going to put a pin in about 6 inches up from the bottom. Somewhere along here has to line up. I have marked the centre of the front of the rail, which is here. Rolled all of that down, pinch it, roll down the front of here, and this lines up with my fingers here. I want it to be as close to this second chair as possible, so I'm going to pull that down, and it looks like it could be about there. If it's slightly out, don't worry too much. And now I'm going to I've just put one staple in here, and I'm going to pull the fabric across and slightly down to this chair leg, and that still looks about flat. So I'm going to pull the chair cover under with this hand, and I'm going to staple it with that one. I'm going to just put a couple of infillers there. Okay, this side I'm going to pull across and down as I had on the other side, and I'm going to put a staple here because I think this will keep it balanced, and just pull that under slightly like that. Now what I'm going to do is pull at the back. Quickly check where my centre mark is, which is here. I'm going to do the same as before. I'm going to just pull that down to there, and then I'm going to pull this centre mark on down, and I'm going to make sure that it looks centered there. The back isn't quite so important as the front, but it does make a difference if you mess it up. So wrap that underneath and put one each side. As I did with the Dacron, I'm going to fold the fabric, the top fabric, over at a 45-degree angle. It's easier with this because you can see where the threads go. And I'm going to just cut into the chair frame, and I'm going to stop about an inch out from that corner. The reason why I stopped cutting about half an inch to an inch from the chair frame is because, as before, I can fold the fabric over and twist it round, and as I twist it round I can pull it into place. Some chairs you need that extra. This one I can go in closer, so I'm just gonna unroll it. I stopped about half an inch from the chair frame, and I'm going to pull the fabric with both sets of fingers like that into the corner and down as hard as I can, and it looks like I've got another half inch that I can cut down. And then I'm going to do a little inverted V like I've done on the other parts, like that. That should allow the fabric to turn and not tear. So I'm going to pop that in there and pull it down into place. On this side I can cut back just below the chair frame. I don't want all of that bulk in there. So I've wrapped the Dacron round and pulled it down there, and the same here. I'm going to fold that Dacron back and that chair fabric underneath it and pull it into place. This is when I decide whether I'm going to put a little bit more padding in on either corner, and it looks pretty tight. When I pull this side down it kind of gives a little bit, so what I'm going to do is put a piece of Dacron in the back and unwrap that. I'm going to slide that up under there and fold it so it's nice and full. Pull the fabric round here and just cut in a straight line up the outside of the chair leg. Then you don't have quite so much bulk. Wrap that back underneath, pull it into shape. As with the previous chair, just check that your warp and your weft threads are running evenly, and so this one's going down, and I'm going to just pull the chair fabric underneath the frame, and I'm going to staple it in evenly here and here towards the center. Okay, as with the outside back, I'm going to fold this Dacron underneath and the fabric around it, and so I've got quite a bit of bulk there. Actually, I'm going to cut some of that out like that, Roll that back up and just lay it across the top here. I don't need to worry about that too much. Fold all of this fabric back underneath around the Dacron and follow the warp or the weft threads as closely as you can. Pull the fabric back towards the back of the chair leg and then underneath as tight as you can. Secure there with a staple. Carefully roll the fabric underneath here. Just towards the front. Pull slightly down and away from the chair as you go. So I'm going to just pop this in here. But I'm going to do it on the other side and see how everything looks. As we come to the corner, we're going to do like we did before. We're going to fold the fabric round to the front and we're going to staple that in like that, quite high. We're going to fold that in with our fingers and bring it down and fold it into place here and staple again just to hold it. Trim back level with the bottom of the chair, and the same here if we need to. No, that's perfect. With the chair, we're going to be pulling down towards the chair leg as we're going to come across. So we pull it down and across, and we're going to staple all of this part underneath with our hands. Just mind your fingers. Right underneath. Like that. This is still pulling down. We're going to pull the fabric across the front, but over the Dacron so it's smoothed out. And we are going to pull this forward and down and around the front like that. And we're going to, before we secure it, we're going to make sure that if we pull this down on the weft thread that it goes in smoothly, and it will. So I'm just going to pop a staple in here so it's out of the way. And actually I'm going to put a second one in because I'm going to pull the fabric down a little like that. I'm going to put another one underneath. And then with this fabric, I'm just going to pull it back so the warp or the weft thread is the one that's showing, like that. We've got a little bit of working to do here. Right, I'm going to be cutting here, so wherever the chair leg is, whether it's a square one or a round one, I'm going to be cutting towards here, and that's where the corner is. And I'm going to cut in at a 45-degree angle going the other way. And the reason is, cut it to within 1/4 of an inch of the turning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that fabric back right on itself, further over, and I'm going to attach it underneath the chair like this, as far back as I can possibly get it. Now with this, I don't want a raw edge, so I'm going to just drop it slightly, about 1/4 of an inch down, 1/2 an inch from the edge of the chair there. I'm going to cut that just round like that. I'm just going to cut all that bulk out. I've trimmed back the Dacron there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that under like that, just a little ways because I'm only just going to catch it here. And with this piece I'm going to fold all the way back and pull that down towards the chair too. So let's see if I can get that stapled in. Staple this here. I did 2 really tight staples here and here, having pulled the fabric down. So I'm going to just cut a little bit of this off, just a little bit up and into where I had stapled earlier. And I'm going to cut this little bit of bulk out. It will hold. Doesn't need to be perfect. Nobody's going to see this. I'm going to pull this up here and just staple that into place there. And that will fold down. On the front here, I'm going to just fold along the warp or the weft threads and pull it up into the corner, making sure that it looks like it's in the corner. I'm going to hold it with my fingers for the moment, and then I'm going to pull at the front here, okay, like I did on the other side, to the side of the chair leg. So there's the side of the chair leg, and I'm going to cut crossways down to within 1/4 inch of the chair. Now this piece here, some of this needs to come out, so I'm going to just cut about 1 inch in from the outside edge and then up. We don't need that, that's just extra bulk. Now holding this in place, I'm going to release it a little bit because I've noticed that it kind of wrinkles at the front there. There we go. And I'm going to just pin it all the way through there and there, just to hold it while I'm messing with here. I'm going to fold this piece over, take some of that chunk out, fold it back and fold it along the line of the chair here. I'm going to staple that into position underneath like that. Now I'm going to work my way back to the center of my chair, so I'm going to pull all of the fabric back here and staple on down, and now I'm back up to this corner here, so I'm going to take a lot of this extra out of here like this. And then I'm going to reduce this by about 1/2 inch of the bottom of the chair, and I'm going to release this pin and this pin because they were just holding it in place. I'm going to fold that fabric over like this, like that, put it into the corner, and then I'm going to staple it underneath. Now when the piping goes on, this will all be hidden, so don't worry too much about what it looks like, just as long as it's all hidden. And then I'm going to just, where my fingers are, staple there, and there, and there, so it's nice and secure. If there's any wrinkles, just roll your finger up underneath and to the corner. You can hand sew it shut if you wanted to. That's okay. And as you see, this seam here kind of disappears. Nobody will really see it once the chair's upright. Right, now we can work in the other side off. Trim up your fabric. To finish off the chairs, I need a couple of lengths of piping cord, which I cut at 2 inches. I use my ruler, cut up like that. Move the ruler across and then cut back up to the 2 inch mark, and then just finish up. When sewing 2 lengths of the cover together for the piping cord, the easiest way to do it is to lay it like that. Usually the right side is up on this side and the right side would be down facing. Then you sew on a small stitch, I would say about 2.6, and you actually sew from this top corner to this bottom corner. As we open it up, we have a perfect seam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim back the excess fabric about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch from the sewed seam. Finger press it open. When that goes over the cording, it creates the thickness of the seam is spread across the piping cord, so you don't get a huge knot in one place. I have a piping foot here which has a groove in it where the piping runs along, and it keeps the piping stable. If you don't have a piping foot, you can always use a zipper foot. It works quite well. You just got to butt everything up close to the piping. Lay the piping cord along the center of your fabric about 1 inch in from the end, keeping the piping cord in that fold. Slip it underneath the foot drop it down and extend the sewing stitch to 5, the longest one you can do, and then sew all the way to the end. Also for this project I need double cording, and I have here a double cording foot. If you do not have a double foot, it's a little bit finagly. Double piping cord usually comes loosely woven together. Starting about 1 inch back, I'm going to wrap the fabric underneath, so it's quite not too tight, but just so you can put your finger through the middle there, fingernail. And then I'm going to wrap it the other way. I'm going to pop that under there, and I am going to keep the top fabric folded under and the under fabric pulled out just slightly so I can see it, and I'm going to start sewing along. The groove pushes the 2 lengths of piping cord apart, so you know, if you do not have a double piping foot, wrap it the same way and then very carefully put a normal foot down on top and sew in between. You just got to work it the same way as I'm doing now, and it will come out quite nice. Make sure those 2 cords don't swap over. When you come to the join, even on single piping, just make sure that this is open and flat, and wrap it as you have been all the way up the cording. Sometimes if you're using a thick fabric like a velvet, it's really awkward. You sometimes have to cut back underneath. This is where you can trim up anything that's needing to, alter any of the staples if you need to. As with the loose seat chairs, I'm going to fold that back underneath, and I'm going to run the edge of the piping cord along the edge of the chair. You don't need too many staples, just enough to hold it in place. When I get to the end, I'm just going to cut a good about 1/2 inch and peel back the stitching, trim back the cording, and with the rest I'm going to, or the excess fabric, I'm just going to roll that underneath into that corner and staple it in place. Having cut back 1 inch of that, I'm going to fold it back over like this, wedge it hard into the corner of the chair, and then with the top of the piping running parallel to the bottom of the chair, staple in place. Work your way to the corner. You can take longer pieces and then just pop some in between. Like when you get to the chair leg, determine where you think you need to cut it back. Just cut a little bit like that. Fold the chair, the piece around, the fabric round with the piping cord, and cut back again. And here what you need to do is cut about 1/4 inch back all the way across to your other mark. You're going to pull it a little bit tight on here, and you're going to put a couple more staples in just to hold it. Bring it to the outside edge again and just staple in as close as you can. So make sure it is a corner, press it, just staple it into place. Do an extra one just on the corner to make sure it's absolutely held in place. And repeat all the way along the front, and do the same at the corner towards the back of the chair and finish up. Now I'm going to be putting on the bottom cloth, or the black cloth. And across, let it hang over slightly and trim it back. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to fold the front over, and I'm going to staple it in so that the black cloth runs along the inside of the piping. To the back and do exactly the same thing. It's going to smooth out as you pull it into the corners anyway, and the sides. I'm going to do the same on this side. Just going to roll it underneath. Make sure any threads that are hanging around are hidden underneath it. And then on this side, I'm going to just cut down at a 45-degree angle into the corner, and I'm going to cut some of this extra fabric off underneath because I don't need that. Pull it back so it makes an inverted V. Pull it around to make sure it fits. Pull it underneath and hide everything that needs to be hidden. You cut it in at a 45-degree angle like that towards this inside of the chair leg, and then fold the excess fabric underneath like that and staple into place. Make sure it doesn't come over the edge of the piping cord. And at the front do the same, fold it underneath, fold the corner in under, and then just staple as close as you can to the front leg. When all four sides of your black cloth are in position, you can use your back tacking and cut them to the lengths of each side of the chair. Pop it along the edge, just run it on the inside of the piping cord and staple into place. Starting anywhere you want, you can just trim back the excess fabric as close to the staples as you can along the top of the chair rail. If any of these staples are too low, this is the time you can replace them a little bit higher, remove the one that's obstructing your way, and just trim back up and continue all the way around. If you want to re-pull in anything, do so. This is the time to do it prior to cutting it too short. I then start cutting the excess fabric off the double welt cord like this. I like to start at the middle back of a chair. There's about an inch of wastage here, so I'm just going to pin that into place along the top edge of the chair rail like that. Having pinned this into place, I am going to start hot gluing about an inch in from the end all the way along the piping cord, and to ease that into place along the bottom edge, or the top edge I should say, of the chair rail. Evenly done, it should hide everything that's under there and look level. Work all the way around to the other end of the chair. Work your way to the centre of the back, trim off one side, match it up and trim off the other side so it butts up against each other. I just glue that side into place. This allows the fabric not to fray too much before sealing it. Oops. Any threads, pull back and off, trim those back. Okay, so that one's nice and tight. Just take a little bit more off this one, but only a sliver. Just going to seal this one into place as well. And I would just put a little bit over the back, over the top of that, there, like that. And then when you pop this one in, it should butt up and they should both seal off together. There shouldn't be any threads coming off. If there are, just tidy them up. And I'm just going to put a little bit more, so not even squeezing it, I'm just sealing both the ends like that so they shouldn't fray. Or maybe a little bit of a squeeze. Any threads, just see if you can get them to tie in to the glue before it really sets. And there's your chair seat. Thank you for joining me today. I hope the information on the sprung chairs is as useful to you as the previous video on the loose seat dining room chairs. The information on both of these videos will be on cookingandhobbies.com, which is my blog. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to see more from me. See you later. Ciao!